We got Oliver when he was 16 weeks old. We didn't know the issues that he had. Didn't take us long to figure it out. After his third escape from the kennel, he got cut up a little bit and caused himself some harm. We then soon discovered that he was suffering from separation anxiety. So we thought it best that we tie him up in the garage with a harness and a chain into an eye bolt here in the 2x4 and give him a little bit of room to move around, but not too much, and keep him safe that way. One day he decided that he wanted out, and he ate the hole in the wall that you see in the thumbnail, and I'm going to put a picture of it up right now. He also ate off the doorknob and caused some other damage. He has since graduated from the garage and made it into the room, where he's been closed up in a room during the day. And a couple months ago, he graduated from that, and he gets to roam the entire house. So it's been about 3 years now since he ate the hole in the wall, and it's time to fix it. So I put some plywood on it just to keep him safe. So today, we are going to get this drywall replaced, get it all fixed up, and looking good once again. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Deerdorf, and this is Detroit DIY, and this is Oliver. The first thing we're going to need to do is get this plywood out of the way. So with the wood out of the way, we can see the original demolition work that he did for me. It's kind of good because I was going to cut this out of the way anyway, and that'll be in next week's video. You'll get to see that and exactly what goes on there. But right now, we just need to get this stuff cut out. First thing I want to do is just draw a line straight across. I got my level on here. I've got a little nail pop right here, so I know this is where the center of my stud is. So I'm going to get that line drawn across there. Then we're going to come straight down this stud into this area, just below this panel. So I'm going to go ahead and get me a nice straight line on there. Just like that, and then a line down. Now that I've got that marked out, I want to remove this baseboard trim. This is glued on rubber trim. Shouldn't be too bad to get off. I'm going to go ahead and just replace this whole piece all the way up to what needs to be cut out. It's just going to be a little easier that way. I don't have a stud much past here. Now I'm just going to use my multi-tool and cut right along these lines. You can use a razor blade if you want. I'm opting to use the multi-tool. So now I'm going to take a razor knife and just score right down this corner and get everything cut there. Now with that cut, just going to take the trusty old hammer and start knocking it out. Just like that, got it out. With all the drywall removed, I'm just going to go ahead and pull the remaining screws all out of my way. Now that we've got all the drywall removed, we're ready to install the new. The screws are out of the way, so I'm going to go ahead and get this cut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the width first, and then the length, and then cut out the little notch. So let's get that going on. If you'd like to get a cool shirt like this, head down into the description. I've put a link down there that'll take you to the store. We have all kinds of cool stuff. Shirts, sweatshirts, coffee cups, mugs, hats. Check it out. And I'd greatly appreciate the support. Now that it's cut to the correct height, I need to cut it to the correct width. I got my line right here. What we want to do is just score it with the razor blade. Write down your line. Your measurements don't have to be perfect. In fact, you want a little bit of room so that it's not so tight in there. If you try to knock this into place, it just breaks it. Once you have the front of it scored, it'll just snap back to the other side, and then you cut the back paper. Just like that. Now that we have it cut to the general size that we need, we have to cut the little notch out of it. So I'm going to get that laid out and we'll get it cut. Right now I have the drywall upside down because I have my main power line. The pipe sticks out further than the wall. So I need to cut this out first, and I'm going to use my multi-tool to do most of it. And then I am going to use the razor blade to cut this curved section. This area may require some fine tuning to get it to go over the pipe. We'll just have to wait until we get it all cut and set down there and get a final fit. Now I have to cut the hole for the outlet, and then I'm going to cut this bottom part of this section in the razor blade for the rest. With all the cutting complete, it's time for a test fit. We're hitting a little bit down here on the pipe. I am going to go ahead and screw part of this in place and then trim it out once I get down there. I'm going to use 1 5/8 inch coarse thread drywall screws. once I get a battery. I'm a little snug right here along the door, so I'm going to take care of that first. Just take the razor knife between the drywall and the wood and cut it right out of the way. Now that that's good, I'm going to head over to the pipe and do the same thing. With everything trimmed out, I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of my screws in. Now that all the screws are in, I'm getting ready to tape the seams. I'm going to be using 45-minute drywall mud and paper tape. I have my drywall mud all mixed up. I've got it about the consistency of loose mashed potatoes. And I'm going to start right here in this corner. I've already pre-measured and cut my drywall tape, and I have the bend in it for the corner. So what I want to do is just come in and lay a little bit of mud in here, and when I lay the tape in, I will smooth it out better, or attach the tape by pressing hard on the trowel. With our mud in place, we're ready to get the paper on. And we're just going to tuck it right in the corner, push it into place by hand a little bit, get it exactly how we want it. Now I'm just going to come through with my putty knife and squeegee any excess out from underneath of it. The paper should press down tight to the wall with no air bubbles. So as you can see, I've removed a considerable amount of what I put on. Now that the paper is pressed tight, we let that dry. Move on to paper and the rest of it here. I'm going to go ahead and just fill these holes up while I'm here. With the corner complete, I'm going to go ahead and mud this joint and the others and get the tape on. With the first layer of mud on, we're good to go ahead and get the tape on. So we'll just start it right here, pull it back just a little bit past, inch or so past. Get it stuck down on there. Use our putty knife to tear it. Now we want to just put a little light coat right here for this other seam. Do the same thing, run the tape up just a little bit past that. Pull it down. Give it a little cut, a little light coat over the top. Now that all the tape's on, we want to go ahead and get rid of any excess compound that's here. Press out any wrinkles that you might have. Now that that is finished, we want to let it dry. Give it a couple of hours, then we can come back and get the next coat on. It's been a couple hours now. I'm going to go ahead and get the second coat on here. This will probably require 3 coats. I've also mixed this one up. A little bit thicker, but still like thin mashed potatoes. And what we want to do this time is go the opposite direction. So I want to cover it over like this. And I want to leave just enough material where the tape is no longer visible. I'm going to go ahead and get a coat on it. And then I will come back with my putty knife and go over it again to get all the lines out. After it gets set up for a minute, I'll go ahead and do these screw holes again. You also want to make sure before you start this that there's no humps or bumps in the way. You can take your putty knife and kind of go through and scrape them off if there are. When you get to these corner transitions like this, you're going to have to use a little more putty. You're going to have to go out a little further. And just take your time. The whole idea is to make it as smooth as possible to greatly reduce the amount of sanding that you're going to need to do. Don't leave it all humpy and bumpy because that's a nightmare to sand off. For the corner, I want to put more material on one side of my knife, and I'm just going to run it up like this and get some material on there. Then I'm going to push it in the corner, get it cleaned out really good, and just continue up like that. You can also get the extra off your blade like this, and then do the same thing. Now that it's been on here for a few minutes and it's starting to firm up is when you can go through and apply more pressure and pull all your lines out, your funny stuff, and make it look really smooth. Now that the second coat is complete, we'll take a close look at it here, and you can see there is a couple of lines, there is a couple of ridges. It's no big deal. It's nothing that won't smooth over on the third coat, or a little bit of sanding won't take care of. Oh look, we got a little spider visitor. Maybe he'll leave some little footprints in it. Nothing to worry about here. The trim will cover that up once it gets replaced. Our corner has its first coat over the tape. And on my next coat, I will only do one edge at a time so that we can build that corner nicely. I'll explain that in more detail when we get there. This has been drying for about 3 hours now. I'm going to go ahead with my putty knife and just scrape over it and knock down any high spots that might be here and just get it kind of smoothed out a little bit. Once I finish that, then I'm going to get another coat on here. Now that I've got my high spots knocked down with the putty knife, I'm going to go ahead and put another coat on. But I'm only going to come down into here. I am not going to attempt to go here until this firms up a little bit better. And the mud this time, I've mixed it thicker for this coat, more the consistency of mashed potatoes. And now this time for this corner, I'm just going to put my material on and pull it out this way, making sure that I fill the corner up nice and tight. And then I'll just blend it out really nice to the outside wall. Now I'm going to clean all the mud off of my knife, and I'm going to go back over this again, applying more pressure to push it smooth. I should be able to work every single line out of everything that I've put on. Now that the third coat is on, we'll take a closer look here. As you can see, I have pressed out almost every line in it. The sanding is going to be extremely minimal. There's a little area right here I may have to touch up, and then I'll have to clean up the corner before I do the other side. I'll do this side tomorrow, and I'll do this section down here tomorrow and tidy this up. Now that this one's drying for about 24 hours, we're ready for our next coat here to get the rest of this covered up. We'll do a little scraping, we'll take a closer look. Right here in the corner I have a little buildup. You can kind of see it right through there. And what I want to do is just knock that off. Just take my putty knife and scrape it away. That way it's not in my way when I put my next coat. So I'll get all that scraped away. Otherwise everything else is looking really good and just needs a light little sanding. And we need to get another coat down here. So I'm going to just get the lump scraped off over there, and then we're ready for another coat. I've got my compound mixed up. It's about like mashed potatoes. It's fairly thick. It won't blob off the knife. And when we're applying, we want to keep the knife more laid down to apply. Then when we come back through to do our cleanup, we stand the knife up a little bit more, and that's what gives us our smooth finish. So to apply, lay it down, stand it up a little bit, apply a little bit of pressure, and you'll wind up with that smooth coat. If there's little bumps in the wall, you're going to get what you see right there. So what I want to do is just go ahead and get some material over all of this. I'm not too worried about this area because the trim is going to cover that up. There's something in there, a little blob of something causing me problems. Once I get the material applied, then I'll come back through and start flattening it out very nicely, removing any excess. Until we get that almost a 100% line-free application. In this corner, I'm going to put some mud on this way first, and then I'm going to come back through and fan it out. Now that I have the bulk of the material on, just gonna smooth it a little bit to the side, a little bit up, a little bit down. With the second coat of mud on the rest of it, here and down this side, I have a little bit of touch up to do in this corner, but it's no big deal. Most of that will sand right out, but there is gonna need to be maybe one more little coat put in that corner. I touched it up down there a little bit. So once this dries thoroughly, we'll be able to sand it, and then it should be ready for some paint. It's been about 48 hours now since I applied the last coat of mud, and I'm ready to sand it. Everything is dry, everything looks really good. As you can see, there's some little spots in through here. There's some little dips and waves, nothing too big. And then the corner turned out really good. I did put another coat right along through that inside edge of the corner, and I cleaned up around the pipe right there. And now we're going to get to sanding. I normally like to use a long board sander, but this is a sponge sander. It's coarse on one side, fine on the other. It's a little banged up, but it's still good. And what I want to do is take this coarse side first and just go right in the corner, because it will sand on the side and the back. And just put some pressure on it and pull it down. Just until it's cleaned up. I don't want to remove tons and tons of material. But there's enough material here that it'll clean up nicely. Then for any of the other areas that are really, like there's a little bump right here, I'll do the same thing. I'll use this coarse side and just get that where that bump is knocked out, and then I'll switch to this fine side and do all my finish sanding with that. So I'm just going to get the sanding. I've been sanding about 15 minutes. It's ready to go. It's ready to get cleaned up and painted. That's my dust on the floor right there. Not too bad. As you can see, it's all turned out very smooth. Should have a really nice blend. No humps, no bumps, no messes like that. Corner's really nice and tight. Get some paint on it and we'll take a look. The paint is still drying, but this project is complete. I'm gonna have to go through, clean some walls, do some more painting. Got a lot to do. Stick along and we'll show it all. That's all we got for this time. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. Hit that like button, smash that notification bell. And always remember, respect the power of your power tools. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of those two videos. They're going to pop up right there, and we'll see you soon.